Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Period. Man, I appreciate y'all for joining me this evening. It's another one, man. Reaction Monday, man. Listen, man, please like, subscribe to the channel. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. What else am I forgetting? Spotify, Castbox, YouTube, of course. Like, subscribe, share it too, man. Share it with a friend. Let your friends know, like, what you listening to. Like, have you seen this crazy dude on the internet? Hey, man, whatever it takes, man. We growing, we're growing. Man, this particular reaction video is I'm setting it up as a response to a recent video I dropped about Congressman Rashida Tlaib. And so dropped that video. Great response from the video, man. Shout out to the people that took the time to even give your boy 2-3 minutes. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate all of y'all 2-3 minutes. But it also started a lot of chatter. The context, and I'll drop the link in here as well. But the context of the video, I was just talking about whether or not free speech was still free. And all I mean by that is, in the USA, are we still free to say whatever it is we want? And so as I was thinking about this, and then as I was reading a lot of these comments, I was like, oh, it's too much. It's too many people to respond to. But I said, let me make a video and record a response. And in doing so, I ran across this video right here that kind of sums up my feeling about Rashida Tlaib, and for that matter, anybody else. No matter what it is that you want to say, this kind of sums up. And so this is a conversation between Tucker Carlson and I just forgot his name, Glenn Greenwald, I think it was, that they did, obviously, as you can see, on Tucker's platform on X. So let's check it out. Let's see what they got to say.
It's a very familiar template. So their real aims are domestic. They use foreign conflicts to make change in the United States, to make the country, in fact, less democratic. But they use those conflicts abroad to divide the United States. So we're going to do this. We're going to spend all this money. We're going to imperil America's national security. And if you don't like it, then you are a tool of fill in the blanks, Saddam, Putin, Hamas. It seems like a uniquely poisonous way.
So I like what he just said right there. We're using, and this is a general statement, part of this, I believe, may apply to Rashida Tlaib, but generally, right now, if you have anything other than positive things to say about, most people say Israel. I think most people who talk about it, though, are referencing, in particular, they're referencing the government of Israel, and they are excluding the people from that, at least from the conversations that I've listened to. But yeah, so if you do that, you are now, I'm not going to say, some people may take it as far as says you advocating for Hamas, but I do think it's interesting, though, that any criticism of the Israeli government is considered criticism of all Jewish people. And for me, I don't know if you can equate the two. I don't think you can equate the two. I even look at our own government. Can you criticize the U.S. government without necessarily criticizing the U.S. people? Is that possible? Because if it is, then I think you can criticize the Israeli government without necessarily criticizing the Israeli people. But let's keep listening.
Of running a country, and not at all good for the country.
No, I think that's exactly right. If it would be bad enough if the United States were just going around spending all of Americans' money to fuel foreign wars. But what they're doing at the same time with these foreign wars are using them as a pretext to erode the core constitutional and civic rights of American citizens here at home. So when they wanted to launch the so-called war on terror, they ushered in the Patriot Act that gave vast powers to the FBI and the CIA of all kinds of detention and surveillance powers. They empowered the NSA to spy on Americans without the warrants required by the Constitution. Newt Gingrich wanted to rewrite the First Amendment in order to usher in censorship measures in the name of the war on terror. They did the same thing with the war in Ukraine. Some of the greatest censorship on big tech came from those people who were questioning NATO narratives, who were standing up and saying, I don't think these things are true. I don't think these things are wise. The EU made it illegal to even give RT a platform. So every single one of these wars results in fewer and fewer rights for Americans here at home. And now we're seeing the exact same thing, Tucker, with this insistence, and the Biden administration is fully on board in partnership with Republicans to provide billions and millions of dollars, not this time to Ukraine to fuel their war, but to Israel to fuel their war.
Okay, I'm gonna pause right there. And so, what he's saying, and I don't necessarily, as it pertains to what's going on with Israel Hamas, I haven't really seen any particular bills yet, anyway, that are going to limit the rights of Americans or what Americans can say. But I mean, he's spot on when we're talking about Patriot Act, when we're talking about taking away our rights in terms of our ability to kind of freely move, and then their ability to basically wrap us up. If they had suspected that we were in any way, shape, or form related to terrorism, and we were silent. I mean, as a country, these things got pushed through, and we were like, well, it's not a big deal. I'm not doing anything. But going back to like what Edward Snowden was saying, now they just have free reign to just collect information on you. What are they doing with this information? How long are they storing this information? And then what's the repercussions of it? Is free speech still free? That's all I'm asking. We live in America. We're supposed to be able to say what it is we want to say. Period.
What we've been seeing from the people advocating that is this insistence that those who stand up and say, I'm not in support of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, I don't think the United States should treat this war as our war. You don't have to agree with that or not, but there's so many efforts now to say people saying this should be censored. What they're saying is illegal. They're invoking all the theories that the liberal left have been invoking for years now to justify censorship of the views they dislike. Oh, this is inciting violence. This is going too far. This is hate speech. This is against a vulnerable minority group.
And that's the questions that I'm saying. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are pushing back on any criticism of whatsoever of the Israeli government right now, and who are calling people who have questions about that. These are probably some of the same people that don't appreciate when people say, if you're not using my pronouns, that's hate speech. Those are probably some of the same people that would go, that is not hate speech. I am just exercising my right, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. When you're censoring other people for the views that you don't like, then you're doing the exact same thing that other people are doing when they want to censor you for the views that you don't like. It's like he says, we've been watching what, they call it woke today. We've been watching all of this wokeness, as they like to call it, where you're not using my pronouns. The idea that you don't support transitioning children, it's they're using all of the same tactics that the other side has been using to, quote unquote, censor those that don't like them. It's the same argument. So if we don't like when they do it, then how are the other side? how are you going to do it back to somebody else? Where is the consistency? That's all I'm saying. We got to be consistent in this thing, because the more we're willing to allow this for us, if you will. So right now it's all about, supporting Israel. And so anybody who doesn't just outright support Israel's right to defend themselves, you are somehow now being questioned and people should censor you. We got all this pushback coming from the universities. And so they're talking about creating lists of all the students that are saying this. And, we don't need to hire those students. You got Ron DeSantis. He's trying to find ways that he can use the government to censor kids on college campuses. No, this is not the way to go, because the moment we give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. So what you or I or whomever may not like what people who don't support Israel outright. So what? We don't like what they say. But if we're going to have a country they need to be able to say what they want to say.
And now we're seeing the same kind of erosion of free speech here in the United States on the part of Americans, because now there's another foreign war that's always part of the equation, the domestic aspect to it, that vests more power in the government and takes away more and more rights from Americans.
What's so terrifying to me, though, is that the right, the American political right, which really was through this kind of weird transformation that's happened over the past dozen years, has become the lone defenders of the First Amendment. They've abandoned that in the last month, like instantly. So I think you could say, I strongly support Israel. I strongly dislike Hamas. I'm rooting for, maybe I think we should commit troops to the region. I mean, whatever. You can have any view you want. However, American citizens have a right to express their opinion, period. And that supersedes any other event in any other country. It's like, that's a core right. And I don't hear many conservatives saying that.
There it is, man. I don't watch. I mean, I've watched a few Tucker things when he had his show on Fox News. I'm not gonna lie, I was not a avid watcher. I mean, every now and then I did hear some things that I thought were good, but come on, that's the core message. That was the point of my video that I got all these people reacting to. Like, if we don't have free speech in America, right? We argue this is supposed to be the best country in the world. I think a lot of the reasons why it's the best country in the world is because we allow people to say what they want, and we let debate, public discourse, and have conversations, well, we used to, about what it is that we agree or disagree with. And then we keep going, period. We keep it moving based on that idea. Or we come to a decision based on a compromise of that idea. But this notion that I disagree with what you say, so you got to go. Everybody was against it when it was the woke mob media doing that. Everybody, all the conservatives were dead set against it. But now, like they say, here we are. We got this world conflict involving one of our closest allies in the Middle East. And now they're like, yeah, they don't support it outright. They don't support Israel? Get them. Throw them to the wolves. I mean, what are we doing? We are in this country. This is the same country. The same place. And I'm going to stop this video right here. This is the same place in America. We're in the streets. In the streets. In 2023, I saw Nazis, at least that's what they claim to be, marching down the street. They didn't get into a fight. They didn't get into a shouting match. At least if they did, they didn't put it on the news. So if it went on the news, You know, they would put it out there. Marched in multiple locations in a city. No problems. And by no problems, I mean they didn't get in, again, they didn't have no fights, and they did what they did and they went home. You know what? As a black man in America, you know what I said? Okay, so be it. Because we live in a country where you are free to say whatever you want to say. I don't have to like what you have to say. I think it's crazy. I think it's ridiculous that someone would claim to be a Nazi in 2023 and march down the streets of any American city. I think that's crazy. I think you're a lunatic. But you know what? I think you should be able to do it. So when it comes to a congressman, in this particular case, there's students. There's obviously people of Palestinian descent. When they say they don't like Hamas, and I haven't heard any of them say they loved Hamas. So these aren't people who love Hamas. These are people who think what Hamas did was terrible. But they also have criticisms for the Israeli government. And again, I've watched enough because I went on a deep dive on this. And I've been trying to do my deep dive to understand both sides of this equation. And I'm going to be honest with you. I understand enough to know that this is deeper than any American conversation that we're having. And I think that is the failure that we have in this country. And I also think that's why in this country we should allow for free speech, because everybody who is having these conversations are really defending talking points. They're defending talking points. And then I watch a lot of these interviews where the American or the pro-Israel person argues talking points. And then they come on with a Palestinian individual who knows the talking points, but also has personal experience. They have a grandma, they have a great grandma, they have a cousin, they have an auntie, they have an uncle that has or is living in, let's say, like a Gaza, or maybe they live in the West Bank, or maybe they communicate with people in those areas. And so they're not coming from the talking point that was given to them by whoever you want to call giving out talking point. They are coming at it from, I know what my grandma went through, or I know what my auntie went through. Or I saw one gentleman who was talking, who was actually advocating for peace on behalf of Palestine and Israel. But he came from the point of, I was there when an Israeli tank came and blew up my house, and I lost 2 daughters, and I think a niece or something like that. But he was there when they got killed by an Israeli tank, and he's still advocating for peace on behalf of Palestine and Israel. So I'm listening to this, and I'm listening enough to understand that I don't understand enough to really make a comment about who's right or who's wrong. Because when you go back and you look at a 70-year history, when you take in the emotions of Palestinians, when you take in the emotions of Israelis, you just can't argue this from, well, on October 7th, it seems to be, from an emotional standpoint for the people who live in those countries, it goes so much deeper than October 7th that you almost see them talking at a wall with each other, because you're arguing about October 7th and I'm arguing about 70 years of history. And so I'm not even trying to decide who's right or wrong. Matter of fact, I ain't even worried about it, because I'm an American, number one. And my first priority is caring about America. And when I think about America, I'm thinking, why are we doing this anyway? Honestly, This is not going to benefit us in the long run one way or another. And if I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. Because I mean, this is not for us. This is for them. And they need it, and you know, so be it. Whatever happens, happens. And hopefully when it's all said and done, there'll be a solution that satisfies everybody in some way, shape, or form. That's my goal. That's what I want. I pray that everybody over there gets it together enough to have a solution that makes sense for them. But for us in this country, we need to be able to say and have all the rights that we had prior to this conflict. So if you want to say that Israel's bad and the Israel government is killing people, so be it. If you want to say that Palestinian people want to see death to Israel, so be it. But we got to be able to continue our way of life. And we cannot give up our way of life simply because a conflict in another part of the world is happening. Because you give our government an inch and they will take a mile. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to give our government a centimeter, let alone a mile. Matter of fact, I need some centimeters back because I feel like they got too much power. And so I'm for Rashida Tlaib saying whatever she want to say. I'm for whatever other congressman wants to argue that Israel, you know, needs to flatten Gaza. If that's what he want to say, so be it. They all got a right to say what they got to say. Because in this country, there's free speech. And if we're not going to be in an uproar about Nazis marching down the street in this country, then I don't want to hear about anything happening in Palestine or Israel and why it's a problem. Because that story came, they talked about it for a day or two, and they moved on. And that was in our own country. That was in our own American cities. So I'm not going to get upset. If I didn't get upset about that, I'm not about to get upset about something that happened 10,000 miles away from me. Matter of fact, that don't even have anything to do with me. That from a historical perspective, that is so complicated and muddy that I can't solve it in a 5-minute conversation. Because I've watched enough people who know the history, who have experienced the history, they can't get it together. Why do I think I can do it too? And I'm smart enough to know that no matter what I say, no matter what talking point I use, it still does not take away the rights of people in this country to say what they want to say. And this notion that that's fine, but you got to suffer the consequences, yeah, that's a problem too. Because that's what they claim the woke media did, right? Right? People said stuff, and then they start chasing them down and getting them fired from their jobs. So now that we don't like it, or now that the other side doesn't like it, they want to do the same thing too. Yeah, that's a problem all the way around. But y'all keep playing these games, and you're gonna find a country that you don't like in 5 years. Because everything you say, there's gonna be a vindictive event that occurs because of what you said. And I don't know about you, but that's not a pathway I'm willing to walk down. That's not a pathway I'm willing to accept. I want to push back against all of that because this is America. Conversation is what we're supposed to be having, looking for solutions or agreeing to disagree. We don't have dictators. We're free. We are free. I'm going to say it again. We are free. And for all my Bible believers, I'm with you. I still believe the Bible is the infallible word of God. And I understand and I respect about how God loved Israel according to the Bible. And I don't deny that God loved Israel. I believe he did too. But I also read the Bible and I didn't find any scriptures that said that Israel was infallible, that the Israeli government is always right, that anything Israel wants to do, they should be able to do it. I didn't see any of those scriptures. So if I missed something, please let me know. But also send a scripture reference so that I can see where God says the Israeli government can do whatever they want and it's going to be right. I'll wait. Drop it in the comments though. And on that, man, that's my video for today. We got to get back to a place, especially the conservatives. Like, I consider myself one. We got to get back to a place where we truly believe free speech is free speech. I'm going to say it again. And if you didn't know, go look it up. If Nazis can march down the street with no consequence in this country, then certainly you should be able to say whatever you want to say. Because you can't believe that that was okay and then criticize other people for doing other stuff. Man, I'm B period, man. Like, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I'm out.